Here we have a problem on polar coordinates. Okay, let's go to the question. Find three additional polar representations of the point -4, -7 pi over 6 using -2 pi less than theta less than 2 pi. So here we have polar coordinates. Usually we write the polar coordinates in the form r comma theta. So here this r represents the radius of the circle what we have over here on the polar plane, and this theta is the angle measure in standard form, and the theta has to be between -2 pi and 2 pi according to the stuff we have here. Okay, before we start solving this problem, let's understand some stuff about the polar coordinates. Okay, let me consider the polar coordinates of, for example, 3 pi over 3. Okay, here the radius of the circle is 3 and the angle measure standard position is pi over 3. So usually we take the angle measure 0 is over here, and it has to be 90, or it can be written as pi over 10 radians. So then it has to be 30, this has to be 60. So 30-degree angle measure can be written in radians, that is pi over 6, and it is pi over 3. Okay, now let's consider the polar coordinates what we have over here, 3 pi over 3. 3 pi over 3 means first we have to go to the terminal side of the given angle measure pi over 3. So this is the terminal side. So because this angle measure is in standard position, that is its initial side is along the positive x-axis. So terminal side is over here. On the terminal side of this angle measure, we have to consider the circle with the radius of 3 units. So this is a circle with the radius of 3 units, because 1, 2, 3. So on the terminal side, we have to plot a point on the circle with 3 units radius. So this is a point 3 pi over 3. And here you may have a question, what if this value is negative? Because in our problem, in the given point, the value over here is negative. So for example, let's consider the same point with -3, that is -3 pi over 3. So in this case, what I have to do is, again, I have to go to the terminal side of this pi over 3, which is this one. So now, since the value of r is negative, now what I have to do is I have to go to the opposite direction. The terminal side of pi over 3, it's over here. In the opposite direction of this angle pi over 3, I have to consider the circle with radius 3 units. So that's over here. So this is a point -3 pi over 3. So once we understand this stuff that has been explained so far, so we'll be able to solve the problem over here. Okay, now let me erase the stuff. Now we can start solving the question what we have here. Okay, so our first work is to find additional polar representation of this point for this one. Our first work is to plot the given point over here. Okay, and also we can consider the given interval, that is -2 pi to +2 pi. So when I move from -2 pi to +2 pi, so the angle measure is increased. Whenever the angle measure is in increasing direction, so we have to take a counterclockwise direction. If the angle measure is decreasing, then we have to take a clockwise direction. But here, when we move from 2 pi to so -2 pi to 2 pi, it's in the direction of increasing. So we have to take a counterclockwise direction. So, and also negative, the given angle measure -7 pi over 6 somewhere over between -2 pi and +2 pi. Since we are taking increasing direction, we have to take a counterclockwise direction from 0 to this side. This is counterclockwise direction. Okay, so usually, okay, now let me consider the angle measure over here, that is -2 pi. Since it is a multiple of 2 pi, usually it will be located at the position of 0. So whether it's a negative multiple of 2 pi or positive multiple of 2 pi, always it will be plotted at the position of the angle measure 0. So we can plot -2 pi over here. Okay, so when I consider the given angle measure -7 pi over 6, it's a multiple of pi over 6. Since it's a multiple of pi over 6, we can write this -2 pi also as a multiple of pi over 6. Then we can write this one as -12 pi over 6. So when I simplify this -12 pi over 6, I'm getting -2 pi. So now we have to go from -2 pi, that is from -12 pi over 6 to +2 pi. So it's an increasing direction, so counterclockwise. So when this is -12 pi over 6, it has to be -11 pi over 6, and it has to be -10 pi over 6, and it has to be -9 pi over 6. Even if I simplify this one, I'm getting -3 pi over 2. So it's at the correct position, just to verify. And it has to be -8 pi over 6, and it has to be -7 pi over 6, and it has to be -6 pi over 6. Even if I simplify this one, I'm getting just -pi. It's at the correct position. Anyways, I got the angle measure over here, the given angle measure -7 pi over 6. Okay, now let's go to the value of r. So radius is 4 units. So we have to consider the circle with radius 4 units. Since the value of r is negative, so we have to take the opposite direction of the terminal side of negative 7.6. So this is opposite direction. On the opposite direction, I have to consider the point with radius 4 units. So that's over here. So because 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a point which represents the given point. So now I have plotted the given point negative 4, 7, negative 4, negative 7 pi over 6. It's over here. Now I have to find another 3 different points which can be plotted at the same position over here. Okay, now for that, what I'm going to do is I just consider the angle measure from the terminal side of negative 7 pi over 6 to this part. So what angle measure I have increased over here? So clearly it's a straight angle. So straight angle means it's 180 degree. In radians, it's pi radians. So to get the angle measure over here, what I have to do is I have to add pi to this negative 7 pi over 6. Okay, let me do it. So negative 7 pi over 6 positive pi. Okay, to simplify this one, I'm going to multiply this pi by this denominator 6. Once I'm done with this multiplication, I can take this 6 as a common denominator. Then I'm getting negative 7 pi, positive 6 times pi is 6 pi over 6, which can be simplified to just negative pi over 6. So when I add pi to this one, that is angle on a straight line, I'm getting negative pi over 6. So the angle measure we have over here at this position is negative pi over 6. Okay, now we can plot another point over here at the same position of this given point. So with this angle measure negative pi over 6, how? So negative pi over 6. So what value should be taken over here for r? So already we got the radius of the circle for the same. The radius will never change. Only the angle measure will change. So the radius is same 4. Sometimes it will become positive 4. Sometimes it will become negative 4. So now do I mark the point on the same direction of 90 pi over 6 or on the opposite direction of 90 pi over 6? The same direction of 90 pi over 6. So the value of r has to be positive. So this is another polar representation of the given point. And if I plot this point, I'm getting the same location of the given point over here. Okay, now again I move from this point to this point. So again we get the straight angle. So there is 180 degree or pi radians. Okay, now so when I move from here to here to get the angle measure over here, I have to add pi to this angle measure because I started moving from the terminal side of this angle. So now when I move pi radians over here, to get the angle measure over here, I just have to add pi to this negative pi over 6. Let me finish this. So negative pi over 6 positive pi. Now I multiply this pi by 6 and I'm getting negative pi positive 6 pi. Once I'm done with this multiplication, I can take the 6 as a common denominator. Then I'm getting 5 pi over 6. So I'm getting 5 pi over 6 over here when I start moving from negative pi over 6 to pi units of distance. I mean pi radians of distance. Okay, now so I'm over here again. Now the radius is same, the 4 units. 4 units like allow a point over here, but the point has to be plotted over here. Then the radius of 4 has to be taken with the negative 4. That is negative 4 comma 5 pi over 6. So here I have taken the angle measure 5 pi over 6. So since the value of r is negative, so here the terminal side of 5 pi over 6 over here. Since I have taken a negative value for r, so we have to take the opposite direction of 5 pi over 6, and it will be over here. And 4 units of radius means again we have the same position of the given point. Okay, now I got the second additional polar representation of the given point. Okay, now to get the third additional polar representation of the given point, again I start traveling from the terminal side of 5 pi over 6 to pi radians of distance. So to know the angle measure over here, I have to add pi radians to this one because I started traveling from the terminal side of 5 pi over 6. So 5 pi over 6, the same process, positive pi. Now let's multiply this pi by 6, and I'm getting 5 pi positive 6 pi over 6, then I'm getting 11 pi over 6. So when I start going from the terminal side of 5 pi over 6 to pi radians distance, I reach the position 11 pi over 6. Okay, now let me mark this angle measure here. Again, the radius is same, 4 units. So should I take a negative value or positive value over here? So clearly it's a positive value, because if I take positive value over here, I'll mark this point on the direction, the same direction of the terminal side of 11 pi over 6. So that's the location of the given point. So now I got 3 additional polar representations of the given point. in all the three additional polar representations of the given point, we have taken the angle measures which are different from the given angle measure, and also we'll have all the three angle measures over here between negative 2 pi and positive 2 pi.